Susan second course. Rivals crawling in the grass, discussing all the nation. Down to hell with the holy spell, he changed their situation.
Everyone, we're so happy to have Tom O'Carroll with us today. This is in collaboration with our friends at Paul Pratt Library and also our friends of Cohasset Elder Affairs together. Tom is a Dublin-born folklorist and singer who has played at concerts, festivals, colleges, libraries, and pubs worldwide. And it looks like he has brought a few little implements of destruction here to entertain you today with a little Irish music. So welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the first thing I'm going to do for you, it's a song from Belfast, where my mother was born, and it was the first folk song I learned as a kid. It's called The Bell of Belfast City. When she was a child, she was taken with her family to see the biggest ship in the world being built in their little backwater of a sectarian city, Belfast. And they were marveled at this. They were so lucky to be chosen to build this big ship. And everybody in Belfast was so proud of it. So several years ago, I visited the Titanic Museum. It's very interesting. Has anybody been up to see it? Yeah, oh, very good. And it's state-of-the-art, it's very well presented. And they don't shirk the social distinctions between Catholics and Protestants, who got the good, who got the poor jobs and so forth. However, there was one lad walking around the cafe wearing a t-shirt that read, "It was all right when it left here." You can all hear okay, and not too loud or anything. Yeah. Okay. I tell my ma when I go home, the boys won't leave the girls alone. I pull my hair, stole my comb, that's all right till I go home. She's handsome, she is pretty, she's the belle of Belfast City. She's a quarter, 1, 2, 3, please come and tell me who is she? Albert says he loves her, all the boys are fighting for him. Knocking the door, ringing the bell, only to look fairly well. Now she comes white as snow, rings on her fingers, bells on her toes. Out to the money, then she dives, doesn't get the fellow with the rolling by. I tell my man when I go home, the boys won't leave the girls alone. Pull my hair, stole my comb, that's all right till I go home. She is handsome, she is pretty, she's the belle of Belfast City. She's a 4, 2, 3, please come tell me who is she? The wind and the rain, hail, come high, snow, come traveling from the sky. She's as sweet as apple pie, she'll get her own let by and by. When she gets out of her own, won't tell them out when she gets home. Let them all come as they will, sound and moody she will still. I tell my man when I go home, the boys won't leave the girls alone. They pull my hair, stole my comb, that's all right till I go home. She's handsome, she's pretty, she's the belle of Belfast City. She's a quarter, 2, 3, please can you tell me who is she? Now I want you to sing the next song with me. It's a song that you'll know the chorus of, whether you know it or not, you do. It's called Molly Malone. And I was once teaching this to children, and I read through the song first of all, and I came to the bit about the ghost, and they all started yakking about ghosts. They were about 7, 8 years of age. My brother thinks there's one in the closet. My father says it's nonsense. My mother said she saw one. My sister thinks. A 7-year-old child said, "Hush, I'll tell you what ghosts are." So we all shut up, and she said, "Ghosts," she said, "are dead people with issues." And now I knew some of her neighbors, and I had to follow her career. And I found that this little oracle, she became a goth in her teenage years. Black fingernails, unreachable to her parents. They thought there was a stranger in the house. And today, she's finishing up her PhD in education. So I knew there was something special about that child. I also promised the class I would send them a postcard of a photo of Molly Malone. But then she's popping out of her dress. I mean, très décolleté. So I sent them some pictures of sheep and cows and stuff. In Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, first set my eyes on sweet Molly Malone. She wheeled her wheelbarrow through streets broad and narrow, like cockles, mussels, alive, alive, oh, your chance now. Alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. She was a fishmonger, and sure 'twas no wonder, so were her father and mother before. And they both wheeled their barrows through streets broad and narrow, like cockles, mussels, alive, alive, oh. Alive, alive, oh. Yeah. Cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Oh, she died of a fever, no one could save her, and that was the end for Molly Malone. Now her ghost wheels her barrow through streets broad and narrow, like cockles, mussels, alive, alive, oh. Your last chance. Alive, alive, oh. Alive, alive, oh. Cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Well done. Some of the folklore is very interesting. The ones that interest me, though, are the ones that are kind of odd. For instance, there's a belief that if you go in the front door of a house, you have to exit the front door. If you exit by the back door, you'll take all the bad luck of the house with you. If a bird were to fly into your house, it's bad luck. But if that bird happened to be a robin, you're in deep doo-doo. If you have an itch on this elbow, somebody's going to arrive unexpectedly, or maybe it's on the other elbow, somebody's going to depart unexpectedly. But here's one, I think this is either absolutely absurd or brilliant. How do you cure whooping cough? Simple. You eat a loaf of bread baked by a woman who married a man with the same surname. Job is done. Now, on the other hand, it might be just they aced the whole placebo effect. Because if you're invested in these beliefs, maybe you have the power to fix yourself. I don't know. I'm not going to argue with folklore. I'd like to play a tune. I have another little instrument here called a tin whistle. How many years bad luck? Speaking of folklore. That's to make sure there's no beasties inside it. I play a little tune called Rí na Sióg, and it reflects the ancient beliefs that a lot of the rural people had, and some still probably do. There's a phenomenal building about 50 miles northwest of Dublin, in County Meath, called Newgrange. And this building is older than the pyramids. It was built over 5,400 years ago. It's a circular building. It's got a gap over the entrance like that, and it admits perfectly aligned with the winter solstice, which is the 21st of December. And when the sun, of course it's Ireland, the sun may or may not make its arrival, but in the event it does, it turns this corridor bronze gold colour, about the length of the room here, and then there's a big stone at the end. We don't really know the specifics of what the practices were. It maybe had to do with sending souls off with this new light in the winter solstice, or make up your own bit. Anyway, here's a lovely little tune to commemorate that phenomenon of this. The tune is called Rí na Sióg. It translates to the King of the Fairies. Thank you, thanks. I sing a song this time in the Irish language, just to give you a taste of the sounds of it. It became not useful in terms of mercantile activity by the early 1700s, and it started to fade out. At the moment, there's about 3 or 4% of the population who are fluent speakers. That is, they learned it as children in the home. And there's 6 areas around the country with government protection and tax relief and all kinds of things to try to keep these communities together, where they speak only Irish in the shops and pubs and supermarkets, etc. They're known as Gaeltacht areas. I learned it as a second language in school. The song I'll sing for you, it's about a fella called Phelim, and he's in his boat off the coast of Donegal. He's fishing, and the chorus describes his boat as being sleek and sturdy and fast and beautiful. And he's visiting the little islands off the coast of Donegal. One is Gowla Island and the other is Tory, which is where the word Tory came from. Toraidh means a rebel in the Irish language. So the Tory party at one time were a rebel party, and that's how they got their name. Back to the song, and then he becomes a victim of his success. He catches so much fish that his boat capsizes. There's just a couple of verses in it, just to give you the feel of the language. Jean Isla me Timmy Gagala, Paul Jean Isla meets fellow may out. Paul Jean Isla me Timmy Gagala, Paul Jean Isla meets fellow may out. Paul Dean Dira, Paul Dean Jota, Paul Dean Dira, Paul Jean Isla me, Paul Dean Peter. Paul Jean Isla meets fellow may out. Paul Jean Isla meet Jimmy Gutoring, Ishk bor agus fellow may out. Paul Jean Isla meet Purishi Gos Tori, Ishk bor agus fellow may out. Paudine Dira, Paudine Jota, Paudine Dira, Paudine Isla me, Paudine Peter, Paudine Jota, Paudine Isla meets fellow may out. Thank you. We were discussing with a couple earlier on about the corned beef and cabbage phenomenon. In Ireland, they had kind of bacon and cabbage, I suppose, would be the more traditional dish there. But I do have a song about cabbage I'd like to sing for you. Oh, dear me. It needs a drink. The skin on this gets taut. So I have to feed it. Audience is about the Irish and drink, huh? Anyway, we're told that Cabbage came to Ireland with Oliver Cromwell. Bad scam to him too. His soldiers had a little garden in the barracks where they stayed in Dublin, and the Irish got their hands on it, and off we went to the races with Cabbage. There's a dish called Willcut Common. Anybody here ever tasted? I have a few survivors, I see. It's a simple dish. It's basically cabbage and mashed potatoes, or kale and mashed potatoes. And you might zip it up a bit with some scallions and chives or cigarette butts, or, whatever's handy around the house. And in the third verse of the song, it mentions a character from folklore called a Cluracán. Cluracán is a little squireen about this high, impeccably dressed, who'll come into your house in the dead of night and eat all your food and drink your drink. Great excuse. Wasn't me brushing the crumbs away. Must have been the Cluracán. This instrument, by the way, is called a bowron. The spelling is really upsetting. B-O-D-H-R-A-F-A-N, stroke over the A. It means, it translates to deafener. Did you ever have Kilcannon made with lots of pickled greens? But the greens is candy, it's pink like a picture in a dream. Did you make a little hole on top of the whole the creamy flake? The sweet and melting butter that your mother used to make. Oh, you did, so you did, so did she and so did I. And the more I think about it, oh, the nearer I'm to cry. Weren't them the happy days, troubles we knew not? Our mother made Kilcannon in the little skillet pot. Did you ever take potato cake or box tea to the school? Tucked underneath your ox to which your books and slate to rule. The teacher wasn't looking, sure a great big bite you'd take of the creamy flavoured soft and melted sweet potato cake. Oh, you did, so did she, and so did I. The more I think about it, oh, the nearer I'm to cry. Weren't them the happy days, troubles we knew not? Our mother made Kilcannon in the little skillet pot. Did you ever go a-courting, lads, when the evening sun went down? Oh, the moon began to peeping from behind the hill of down. Did you wander down the boring where the Cluracon was seen, as you whispered loving phrases to your own dear sweet Colleen? Oh, you did, so did she, and so did I. The more I think about it, oh, the nearer I'm to cry. Weren't them the happy days, troubles we knew not? Our mother made Kilcannon in the little skillet pot.
Give it a reward.
Is Irish the same as Gaelic?
Yeah. The man asks, is the Irish the same as Gaelic? Yeah, we call it, refer to the Irish language as Irish. Here's a song that was voted. People of Ireland were asked to vote for their favourite folk song. This is the one that won. It's a song called Raglan Road. It was written by one of the poets, Patrick Kavanagh, who fell deeply for a woman called Hilda. And Hilda didn't requite his advances. So she actually was dated by an Irish politician called Des O'Malley from Limerick. And he eventually became Minister of Education, quite a good one at that. And Des O'Malley and Hilda would go on dates, and they'd allow Patrick Kavanagh to tag along. They were very kind to him. He was a kind of a forlorn individual, but a wonderful poet. And he wrote this song about his unrequited love to Hilda. It's one of those songs that's got facets. Every time I hear it or sing it, something else reveals itself. That's probably why it's such the beloved song to the Irish people. On Raglan Road of an autumn day, I saw her first and knew that her dark hair might weave a snare that I might someday rue. I saw the danger and I passed along the enchanted way, and I said, let grief be a falling leaf at the dawning of the day. On Grafton Street in November, we tripped lightly along the ledge of a deep ravine where can be seen the worth of passion play. The Queen of Hearts still making tarts, and I'm not making hay. Oh, I loved too much, but by such is happiness thrown away. I gave her gifts of the mind, I gave her the secret sign that's known to the artists who have known the true gods of sound and stone. Her words and tint without stint, I gave her poems to say, with her own name there and her own dark hair, like clouds over fields of May. On a quiet street where old ghosts meet, I see her walking down, away from me so hurriedly, my reason must allow. Had I loved not as I should, a creature made of clay, when the angel woos, the clay he lose his wings at the dawn of day. I'm going to play a little dance tune for you now. If there's anybody who was to hop up and make an exhibition of themselves, it's a big chance. It's a wonderful tune. It's got a great name to it. It's called Tripping Up the Stairs. It was very common for students in Ireland to go to work in England to get money for their school fees and the like, and for pocket money. And so here's a fella who goes over to England. He's a graduate student, very confident young man. Goes to the foreman and he says, "Do you have any work for me?" The foreman says, "Do you know anything about construction?" He says, "Of course, just ask me any question you like." So the foreman says, "What's the difference between a girder and a joist?" Oh, he said, "That's easy. Joist rode Finnegan's Wake and girder rode Faust." Anyway, here's a song about a fella who had a terrible accident on a construction site. If you need a good excuse not to go, most of you are probably retired, but a few of you might be working. If you need a good excuse, listen closely, and you can adapt it. "Oh dear boss, I write this letter to you to tell you of my plight. And at the time of writing, I am not a pretty sight. My body is all black and blue, my face a deadly grey. And I hope you'll understand why Paddy's not at work today. I was working on the 14th floor, some bricks I had to clear, and throwing them down from such a height was not a good idea. The foreman wasn't very pleased, him being an awkward sod, said I'd have to carry them down the ladder in my hod. Now shifting all the bricks by hand seemed so awful slow, so I hoisted up a barrel and secured the rope below. But in my haste to do the job, I was too blind to see that a barrel full of building bricks was heavier than me. Now when I came down, I cut the rope, the barrel fell like lead. But clinging tightly to the rope, I started up instead. I shot up like a rocket, but to my dismay I found halfway up I met the bloody barrel coming down. Now the barrel broke my shoulder bone as to the ground it sped. And when I reached the top, I struck the pulley with my head. Now I clung on, though no one shot from this almighty blow, while the barrel spilled out half the bricks 14 floors below. Now when those bricks had fallen from the barrel to the floor, I then outweighed the barrel and I started down once more. Still clinging tightly to the rope, I headed for the ground and landed on the building bricks scattered all around. As I lay there moaning on the floor, I thought I'd passed the worst, but the barrel struck the pulley wheel and didn't the bottom burst. A shower of bricks came down on me, so I haven't got a hope. And as I was losing consciousness, I let go of the flippin' rope. Now the barrel being heavier started down once more, landed right across me as I lay there on the floor. I broke 3 ribs on my left arm, and I can only say that I hope you'll understand why Paddy's not that word. St. Patrick's Day has come and gone. I must tell you, as a child in Ireland, watching the St. Patrick's Day parade in the 50s and 60s, even as a child, I was particularly unimpressed. The whole society was all about don't put your head up, don't get noticed, just keep your head down, carry on with your life. And the parade was a parade of that. They were embarrassed by it. The soldiers were stern enough, and they marched, and the Navy marched, and all the 3 jets from the Irish Air Force flew over Dublin, Cork, Limerick, Galway, and were home for their dinner. And the whole thing, there was a few industrial floats, and the people operating it were mortified to be doing their business. It was honest to God. And then the self-confidence started to come up on the Irish people. American marching bands came over with the jazzy instruments swinging around, and girls in short skirts throwing sticks up in the air. Everybody said, we can do that. And now it's a fabulous affair. You can probably watch it on YouTube. If you could just sum it up yesterday's St. Patrick's Day march in Dublin or Cork or Galway, Limerick, and it's multicultural, there's fabulous displays, it's very impressive. I saw the South Boston one yesterday. I had a gig in a house on Broadway, and I finished my gig and I was trapped by the parade. I couldn't get to my car, so I watched it. It was interesting. They had about 50 jeeps. I don't know what the hell they were doing there. It was one after another. However, so one of my favorite ballad makers lived in the late 1700s into the 1800s. His name was Michael Moran. He was from the Liberties, a section in Dublin. He developed measles as a child, and then no vaccinations, of course. And so as a result of that, he was blinded. And so he turned his talents into ballad making. And he wrote a lot of songs from the Old Testament, but he'd get bored with the Middle Eastern geography and toss in the Dublin geography. I'll give you an example. There's one about the finding of Moses that goes, in Egypt's land, contagious to the Nile, the Pharaoh's daughter went to bathe in style. She took her dip, and she came unto the land, and to dry her old royal pelt she ran along the strand. But then a bulrush tripped her, whereupon she saw a little babby in a wad of straw. She took it to the Pharaoh, said he, in accents mild and grand, thought that, Jesus Christ Almighty, girl, where did you get the child? Your biblical chronology is about to kick in here, I hope. Oh yeah, old woman, I search every nook, from the Phoenix Park down to Donnybrook. And if I catch the little basket's father, I'll chase him from the River Nile onto the River Dollar. That's how he dealt with the finding of Moses. He also has one about St. Patrick, a great song. But most of the songs about Patrick are hymns, and I don't do hymns, I just do folk songs. This was one he wrote called St. Patrick Was a Gentleman. He has him out chasing women, drinking and smoking. He wanted to call it Saints Just Want to Have Fun. Here we go with St. Patrick Was a Gentleman. St. Patrick, incidentally, was brought to Ireland as a slave. The slaver was a fella called Niall ní Gaelach, which translates to Niall of the Nine Hostages. And then we're told that St. Patrick made his escape in a boatload of Irish wolfhounds. However, Niall of the Nine Hostages, he was a bit of a lad. He has about 8% of all Irish people have his DNA in their makeup. So check your... It doesn't say Niall of the Nine Hostages. It goes back to somebody dating around that time who was responsible for a lot of children. And it's assumed to be Niall of the Nine Hostages. He was a, as I say, Genghis Khan now, interestingly enough, has about 12% of Central Asia with his DNA sample, and he came 700 years after the Bow Nile. Here we go. St. Patrick was a gentleman, he came of decent people. He built a church in Dublin town upon the put to steep. His father was a Gallagher, his mother was a Grady. His aunt was Anne O'Shaughnessy, his uncle was a Brady. Wicklow Hill's a very high, and so's the hill of Holzer. There's a hill much higher, still much higher, northern Bolzer. On the top of that high hill, St. Patrick preached a sermon, drove the frogs into the bogs and banished all the vermin. For friction murdered them a husband. The toads of pop frogs and hop hop paced into the water. Snakes committed suicide to save themselves from slaughter. 900,000 vipers blew with charm and sweet discourses. Tangled them with killaloo and suits and second horses. Rivals crawling in the grass discussing all the nation. Down to hell with the holy spell, he changed their situation. They are so free and frisky. Sure, St. Patrick taught us that as well as making whiskey. It's a wonder the saint himself could understand distilling. His mother kept a sheepy tuck the town of Enniskillen. Her name but 'tis fortunate 'tis to be back in Ulster. I'll be bound that from the ground it never more in Munster. There St. Patrick planted turf, cabbages, praties, pigs galore, and rawish store of lads and ladies. Here's to ball St. Paddy's fist. Was a saint so clever, for he gave the snakes and toads a twist, and he banished them forever. There we go, thank you. There was an Irish king called Diarmid MacMurrough, who got dethroned by his partner kings. There was 5 different provinces in Ireland at the time. He was the king of Leinster. And for various reasons he got dethroned, and he took himself off to Wales to gather a mercenary army to come back and to regain his throne, and in reward for their work he would give them grants of land. So the 1st of May in 1169, in the morning I suppose, 400 archers and families, all Anglo-Normans, came over from Wales, and they were able to pretty much defeat anybody they met. A year later, 4,000 armed men came over with King John and claimed the whole country for themselves. But they didn't manage to make incursions apart from the east coast. It was the area known as the Pale. And then later on, Queen Elizabeth then said, oh, to all the Irish chieftains, you can have an English title, and we'll leave you alone, and you can proceed. But if you took that title, with it came garrison soldiers, British justice system. The Irish justice system was interesting in that it was more to do with restoring the person rather than punishing them. For instance, if you had somebody damage your vegetable garden, or if their cattle strayed into it, they had to repair the damage they did and replace the vegetables that were destroyed. If you caused somebody public embarrassment, you paid a blush fine of maybe a half dozen eggs or something like that. It wouldn't work in today's society, would it? Sitting outside some CEO's mansion, trying to embarrass them. Good luck with that, huh? Anyway, this did work somewhat, I guess, in the old days. They had a sense of shame. This was all leading up to a song, and I've forgotten what it is. Oh yeah, that's quite all right. I was a school teacher for 1 year, and the children used to encourage what they called red herrings. send me off on a little tributary. It's fun. It's a rebel song. And this one goes back to, I do a verse or two of O'Donnell Abu. The Irish government in the 1980s agreed to offer a courtesy recognition if you could prove you were a chieftain. You had to get your bona fides together, get professional genealogists to prove you were the eldest son, going back to the last known chieftain. And so 20 people managed to establish themselves as chieftains. The Irish government kind of withdrew from the program when one of these chieftains started to try to leverage his chieftainship into some commercial venture, and the government withdrew their support. However, they still meet. There's a descendant of Brian Boru, still living. He has a pedigree that's, I'm told, is 34 feet long. It goes back before Brian Boru, back to about 200 BC, with fairly creditable accuracy, because genealogy was so important to these old chieftains that they had records and records and records until they started to get a little fanciful and going back to Noah. That was a bit of a stretch for them there. Or some of them went back to the mythological first arrivals, the sons of the King of Spain, Mills, M-I-L-S, Heber, and I forget the other chap. They tried to go back to those legendary characters, and so then it falls apart. But fairly accurate going back, to before Christ. And so on. So here's one of the songs from the Chieftains, O'Donnell Abu, which I understand has been adopted by the AOH as their official anthem. The O'Donnells fled Ireland in 1607, during just after the death of Queen Elizabeth I. And they went off to Rome, and they went to Spain, and the Catholic countries of Europe. Here we go. Oh, proudly the note of the trumpet is sounding, and loudly the war cries arise o'er the gale. Fleetly the steed by Spinning is bounding to join the squadrons and sabres prevail. And every mountaineer stranger to fight the fear flock to the standards of dauntless red hue. On up the Gallowlass, travel from each mountain pass, on world Ireland. Loosely O'Neill to our aid is advancing, Manly's a chieftain and warrior clan, 1,000 proud steeds in his vanguard enhancing, its borders so brave, the banks of the band, Betty's heart shall quail, under his coat of mail, fleetly the merciless foeman shall rule, make the proud Saxon feel, Erin's avenging steel strike for your country. Thank you. There's one of these chieftains is a fellow called O'Neill who lives in Portugal, a very colourful man. He wrote to George Mitchell, who was the emissary from the Clinton administration to try to help solve the Northern Ireland problem. He very generously offered to come over there and rule as a king, and that he would treat both sides of the sectarian barrier equally. And he didn't get a reply. Interesting man. He lives life quite large. His name is Don Hugo O'Neill. He has a winery and an estancia. There's a group in Ireland that are disfavoured by much of the society, and I know quite a lot about them. They used to be referred to as tinkers, but now they prefer to be known as travellers. The word tinker has become a pejorative. If you make a derogatory comment about somebody who's African American or from Africa or somebody who's Jewish, it'll be quickly censored by your group. But if you made a negative comment about the travellers, nobody would say a word. Even a judge in a position of great authority remarked, read in the papers a while ago, he said, the travellers, you're like Neanderthals skulking in the long grasses. Now, when somebody of authority makes a comment like that, people down the road interpret it otherwise, and vulnerable people all of a sudden are attacked and abused with the authority of a judge. Anyway, here's a song. When I was just finished school before I went to college and met up with a traveller, and he was quite renowned in Ireland. He had a nickname which confuses people here. He used to ride horses for a Major Peckenham, so he got the nickname the Pecker Dung. And in Ireland, your pecker is your nose, because it pecks, peck. There you go. Glad to clarify that. Anyway, he wrote a wonderful song that became part of the folklore, the folk tradition, called Sullivan's John, about a settled man who runs away with a band of travellers. And he's an interesting guy himself. His grandmother was Romany, so he intermarried with the Romany people at some point. He had a big head on him, and you can YouTube him. He's got lots of stuff out there. Very interesting fellow. I used to travel around with him. We'd go to horse fairs and we'd busk on the streets, and we would get invited in to play in pubs and pass the hat around. He was a great character. He'd come in with the Polish banjo over the air, and he said, "My father gave me this and told me as long as I could play it, I'd never starve." At which point he'd slap his big belly, which was mostly beer. And he'd say, "We're going to pass a collection. If you can't afford to donate, smile, but we don't want to see too many smiles." He had a great pitch. Oh, Sullivan's John, to the road you go, far away from your native home. You're gone with the tinker's daughter, or along the road to Rome. Sullivan's John, no, you won't stick it long, for your belly will soon grow slack. As you roam in the road with a mighty load and a toolbox on your back. I met Katie Cafe with her neat baby behind on her back strap on. She'd an old ash plant held in her hand for to drive her donkey on. Inquiring at every farmer's house as along the road she passed. Oh, it's where would I get to know pot to mend, or it's where can I sell an ass? Now I heard of a fair in the county Clare, in a place they call Spansel Hill, where my brother James got a rap of hames, and poor Paddy they tried to kill. They loaded him up in an old ass and cart, while Kate and the baby looked on. Oh, bad luck to the day I went away for to join with the tinker man. Oh, Sullivan's John, to the road you go, far away from your native home. You're gone with the tinker's daughter, or along the road to Rome. Sullivan's John, you won't stick it along till your belly will soon grow slack. As you roam in the road with a mighty load and a toolbox on your back. Thank you. A little more about the travellers. In the 1960s, the Irish government decided, okay, you guys are going to move off the roads. Most of them were staying in improvised dwellings, and their caravans and their barrel-topped wagons with a little stovepipe to the roof. It would sleep about 4 people, and the others would camp outside in tents that they made. The Irish government said, no, you got to settle down, and for 2 years they harassed them and kept them moving. But then again, neighbours didn't want them living alongside them. So it was a terrible dynamic going on for several years. Eventually the government provided them with halting sites so they could pull their wagons and trucks in there and have facilities for cleaning and taking care of themselves. Now there's pretty much all settled. There's very few hardcore still live out in the rough on the sides of the road. Wintertime is very tough on them. Here's one of the families that finally gave up travelling on the roads and moved to Dublin, became a very famous musical group called the Fury Brothers. And the father was Ted Fury, a great fiddle player and a great storyteller. He was a great character. I got to know them. And one of the sons wrote a beautiful piece of music called The Lonesome Boatman. I play it for you. And also, The Irish government has, the Department of Education has, now they've got a factor where they teach children about the Irish travellers and their community and their culture. So it hopes to lessen some of the aggravation that they receive. Here's a lonesome boatman for you. Thank you. Thanks. I'll do a little bit about the rebellion in Ireland of 1916. Home rule had been offered since the 1880s, and various reasons. The House of Commons received it, the House of Lords rejected it, it was put in again some years later. Eventually, they had an agreement, but then the First World War came along, and it was tabled. And some of the proponents who wanted home rule got tired of waiting and decided to have a rebellion. There were three of them were school teachers. One of them was a poet, another was a labour leader, and another guy was, I don't know what he was anyway. They were a kind of an intellectual group who knew they were going to fail. They purposely had the rebellion at Easter time, knowing that their sacrifice would resonate with the deeply Catholic communities. So the rebellion kicked off on Easter Monday, and it lasted until the following Saturday. The British brought troops over, and at the end of the week there were 500 dead. About 200 of them were British soldiers, 170 insurgents, and the rest were civilians. The British had brought a gunship into the harbour and was shelling parts of the city. Accuracy 100 years ago or more was iffy. There was a sweet shop, and probably the little street urchins in Dublin with their bare feet have been drooling at this window for God knows how many years, all the high-class candies, and a shell burst the window open and sweets scattered all over the streets. The children gathered them up, and another shell came. In the heat of the hunt, anyway, there were 40 children died in the rebellion. One child reading a book in his bed, a bullet came through the window, ending his life. And of course, there was that awful thing with the sweet shop. So when they were led off to the ships and to be taken to prison in Britain, the people of Dublin were hurling abuse at them and cursing them for the destruction they wrought in the city. It was not a popular rebellion. However, by the middle of May, they had executed 16 of the leaders. And the Prime Minister of Britain came over and said, "You've got to stop the executions, we're losing popular opinion." At that point, they lost it. It was gone. The Irish turned totally. It was almost Shakespearean in the way that they turned and recognised that this awful sacrifice was for them. And here's a song called The Foggy Dew. As down the Glen, one Easter morn, to a city fair on high, where our marching men in squadrons passed me by. Oh, pipe, it hum or battle drum, it sound, its loud tattoo. But the Angelus bell or the Liffey swell rang out in the foggy dew. It was England and our wild geese flee, that small nations might be free. Their lonely graves are by Sula's waves, on the fringe of the great North Sea. Oh, had they died by Pearse's side, or fought with Cabbage, their names we would keep where the Fenians sleep, neath the shroud of the foggy dew. Oh, the bravest fell, and the requiem bell rang mournfully and clear. For those who died at Eastertide, or the springtime of that year. And the world did gaze with deep amaze at those fearless men but few, who bore the fight that freedom's light might shine through the foggy dew. As back through the glen, I know that again, my heart with grief was torn. We parted there with brave gallant men, I know I never shall see more. And to and fro in my dreams I go, I need and I pray for you. For slavery's fled with our rebel dead, when you fell in the foggy dew. Here's a few interesting statistics from Ireland. I am one of 13% of people born there now living overseas. However, there's almost 17% of the people living in Ireland who were born overseas. And that's been quite a challenge for the society to accept. There's 100,000 refugees from Ukraine, and then you got asylum seekers and people fleeing climate change and migratory people looking for economic opportunities and so on. So the housing is a big problem there, like it is everywhere, it seems, to accommodate all these people. And just, you can listen to Irish radio now. A lot of us have access to computers. It's great fun. I listen to, every morning I listen to the Joe Duffy show. It's great fun. The other day there was a woman had dropped her keys behind the seat in a taxi cab. And she was talking about this. They'd been missing for about 80 days at this point, but she had a tracker on them. And she noted on the radio to the host that her keys had had a great time. They were up and down to Belfast, out to Kildare, out to the airport many times, and all over the place. And while she was addressing this problem, didn't her tracker go off? And she told the guy, well, it's on the road to Howth now. And then 5 minutes later, a man phone said, that taxi just passed my house, I'm getting after it. And then there was a fierce discussion, are you hands-free, are you driving safely, you don't want to crash here. Anyway, he caught up, and as he was driving, he says, there's 2 cars ahead of me now, and many of the cars coming towards him are flashing their lights at him. So the whole nation is listening to the radio show, and the hunt is on. It was just delightful. And then another time, they found the keys eventually to stop the car and reach down behind the seat, and yay, you got the keys. Another one was a very experienced broadcaster called Carl O'Connell was interviewing a lady from the Aran Islands who just reached the wonderful age of 100. Now you must remember now, her first language would have been Irish, and her second language would have been English. And so he said to her, you've had a wonderful life, and I understand you've never been bedridden in your life. She said, oh, I was, several times, and once in a canoe. Good luck with that on cable television. Is that what you are? You cable television? That's a surprise to me. Yeah. Anyway, it's 2 o'clock, and I've got to let you go home. You've got babysitters and God knows what to do, shopping, and I'll finish up with a song called The Parting Glass, which is, if you ever watched the movie Ned Devine, it was featured in that, with the Voice Squad singing it. And the Transeats used to end their performances with The Parting Glass. It's about a fella anticipating his own death. Should be a pint of Guinness or something. Certain library protocols. Oh, of all the money that e'er I've had, I have spent it in good company. And of all the harm that e'er I've done, alas, it wasn't none but me. And all that I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night, and joy be with you all. Oh, there is a fair maid in this town, I own she has my heart beguiled. And if I had money enough to spend, or leisure for to stay a while, her ruby lips and rosy cheeks, I own she has my heart in thrall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night, and joy be with you all. Oh, of all the comrades that e'er I've had, they are sorry for my going away. And of all the sweethearts that e'er I've known, would wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls unto my lot that I should rise and you should not, I will gently rise and I'll softly call good night, and joy be with you all. And thank you, Jennifer, for inviting me. Tighten them with Killaloo and Susan second horse. Riders common in the grass, discussed all the nation. Down to hell, the holy spell, he changed their situation.